Hi. Good to see you guys. I took a walk. It was hot, so I just showered. Non-stinky streamer. Yeah, I held out for a couple of months, but you gotta do it every once in a while. Guys, I know crime time is the topic, and we're still gonna do that, but I don't want to alarm anybody. But Defunctland uploaded 30 minutes ago. So I do really want to do crime time, but also I really want to watch this video about the Wiggles roller coaster. Yeah, we'll watch this awful Wiggles dark ride from Defunctland. Let's watch this shit.
In 1957, a 24-year-old Australian man named John Longhurst visited the newly opened Disneyland Park in Anaheim, California. A regular viewer of the Disneyland television show, Longhurst was interested not just with the park, but the man who made it. The trip to Disneyland did not disappoint. Longhurst recalled, quote, "It was something different to anything I'd ever seen. There was something romantic about it." This trip began what would become a lifelong obsession with both Disneyland and Walt Disney. Longhurst studied Walt Disney's life and philosophy. He learned the story of Walt's wire
Oh my god, I gotta keep my hand off the mouse.
Walt's inspiration for Disneyland, in which Walt described sitting on a bench at Griffith Park, watching his daughters on a carousel.
I felt that there should be something built where that the parents and the children could have fun together.
A few years after he returned to Australia from his first Disneyland trip, Longhurst took his own children to a local animal park. At one point during their visit, Longhurst's children became interested in a monkey exhibit. Shortly after arriving to see the monkeys, the animals began to urinate, and the stench was so potent that one of the kids became ill. In an attempt to turn the day around, Longhurst took the children to get a milkshake, only to be served by a woman who was constantly scratching herself while making the drinks. Longhurst quickly left with his children, and as he drove away, he had his own Walt Disney moment. He said to himself, quote, "Somebody's got to do something about this." After selling a profitable lawnmower business, Longhurst began to more seriously consider the prospect of building his own theme park. He set out to find a suitable site for the project, but after repeated failed attempts, Longhurst, in his own recollection of the events, spoke with God, asking, quote, "Lord, where am I going to get this site to build my park?"
How am I going to teach these kids?
God responded, quote, 10 miles out
or
on
reach
the Gold
these
Coast.
kids. Shit.
The area was perfect. Not only was it already a popular holiday destination, but there was land available. However, Longhurst was very selective about the land he needed for his park, requiring that the property have certain features for ideas he had. In 1974,
God, help me make money, God. Okay, sounds chill.
Longhurst purchased 85 hectares, or 210 acres of land, 10 miles from the Gold Coast, per God's suggestion. Design and construction would take multiple years, with Longhurst spending over 2 years operating a bulldozer by himself to construct the park's layout. 7 years and around $13 million later, the project was finished, and on December 15, 1981, Longhurst's Dream Park, aptly titled Dreamworld, opened to the public. When guests entered the park, they were introduced to a world of wonder unlike they had ever seen, assuming they had not been to Disneyland. Dreamworld's entrance was marked by a building that appeared to be a large train station. Beyond this was a quaint main street, with buildings that resembled a turn-of-the-century American town. Guests could also find an area resembling an Old West town, with a grand river around which a paddle wheeler would travel. The park was described as Australia's answer to Disneyland, but it might be more fair to say that it was Australia's knockoff of Disneyland. This is exactly what Longhurst had hoped for, and even accounting for the similarities, the results were impressive. Dreamworld did have a few unique attractions, namely a state-of-the-art IMAX theater that dazzled guests, and even the elements that were directly lifted from Disneyland.
Well, you know what, though? Not every Australian was going to go to Disney, so, like, I'm sure plenty of Australians appreciated having somewhere to go that's, like, equivalent, similar.
Were given a unique Australian identity.
What the fuck?
Rather than Mickey and Minnie.
Why is a Knight of the Round Table holding a revolver, bro? Bequeath thee wallet, knave! Hands in thine air!
Unique Australian identity. Rather than Mickey and Minnie Mouse, Dreamworld had Kenny Koala and Belinda Brown. Rather than the Steamboat's river simply being the rivers of America, Dreamworld's river was named the Murrissippi River, a hybrid of North America's Mississippi River and Australia's Murray River. The river was flanked by Old West buildings on one side and Australian buildings on the other. This hybrid of Disneyland entertainment with Australian touches was a practice that would continue, and just a few months after opening,
This man looked like he just fucked them. He's like, yeah.
Dreamworld had another Disney attraction with an Australian twist. In 1982, a new area named Gumtree Gully debuted on the banks of the Murrissippi River. The area was home to Gumtree Gully Hall, where Dreamworld guests could find the Koala Country Jamboree.
Oh,
this was a
shit.
direct ripoff of Disney's Country Bear Jamboree,
No.
but with koalas.
No.
This elaborate animatronic
dude,
show
no
saw
way.
many scenes of koalas singing both
Holy
classic
shit.
Australian and American songs. Just like the Country Bear Jamboree, the show had a host and multiple musical acts. Despite the
And nobody has done it ever before.
koala focus of the attraction, many
Actually,
other
I don't know
animal
back
musicians were featured. There is a number where a rabbit sings Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini. There is a number where an American bear shows up and sings a Confederate Army folk song. And
A Confederate Army folk song? Not the greatest American representation outside of the U.S., not gonna lie. Not that most of us do a very good
there is
job.
even a number where a kangaroo sings an Australian lullaby, and in her pouch is a baby kangaroo who
Oh
comes
my
out
God.
and sings with her. The show also featured a beast
What
known as
the
the bunyip. The bunyip is an aquatic monster that originates from Aboriginal mythology. In the Koala Country Jamboree, though, the bunyip sings a love song and wears a big cowboy hat. All of the acts come back in the end to sing Peter Allen's I Still Call Australia Home, before the big finale, Tie Me Kangaroo Down Sport, which is the most Australian song of all time.
Tie me kangaroo down, sport. Tie me kangaroo down. All together now.
The Koala Country Jamboree was well received by guests and would become a favorite among Dreamworld fans. As time went on, Dreamworld continued to grow and expand, receiving many standard off-the-shelf amusement rides and some signature attractions. By the late 1980s, Dreamworld was Australia's #1 tourist attraction,
LOL, it's
despite
not.
Longhurst originally stating that he would like to own the park for the rest of his life. After consideration, he decided to sell the park to entrepreneur Bruce Jenkins and his company Dreamco. Longhurst believed Jenkins would continue developing his dream and provide the park with necessary cash flow. Unfortunately, this was not the case. After purchasing Dreamworld in 1989, Jenkins and Dreamco were immediately in a dire state, and the park was taken over by financial firm Ernst & Young. The new management was more successful, increasing visits by 51% to a total of 1.8 million visitors per year. The park would change hands twice more before the turn of the century. By the early 2000s, Dreamworld was still struggling with finances, but new attractions gave hope for the park's future. A variety of wildlife exhibits had been added, and in 2002, a partnership with Nickelodeon allowed the park's Kiddyland, Kennyland, to transition to Nickelodeon
And
Central.
here come the
In
Wiggles.
2004, another Australian theme park, Wonderland Sydney, closed for good, and Dreamworld took the crown for the largest theme park in Australia.
W.
The success of Nickelodeon Central led Dreamworld to seek out more partnerships with recognizable properties, and in 2005, they were able to secure perhaps their most lucrative agreement yet. And just as Longhurst had done 3 decades prior, Dreamworld set out to make a Disney-caliber attraction with a distinct Australian twist. Lucky for them, there was already an Australian entertainment property that was taking the world by storm. The Wiggles are a children's music group that was founded in 1991. The group was started by Anthony Field, a member of the Australian pop band The Cockroaches. At the time, Field was studying early childhood education at Macquarie University in Sydney, alongside another Cockroaches collaborator, Greg Page, and a guitarist, Murray Cook. Together, the three combined their musical talent with their interest in early childhood development, intending to create an album of songs that could act as an educational tool. After recruiting another Cockroaches band member, keyboardist Jeff Fatt, the group formed The Wiggles. Over 2 years, the group wrote and recorded their first album, repurposing many Cockroaches songs into more child-friendly Wiggles numbers.
It's Wiggle time!
The band evolved slowly over the next few years,
What's Jeff's
adding
last
supporting
name?
characters such as Captain
The caption just said fat. I sincerely doubt that's spelled right. It's just that with a second T. Wow, I didn't know that. Cool.
Feathersword, Henry the Octopus, Wags the Dog, and Dorothy the Dinosaur. The group also began wearing their iconic outfits,
Green.
brightly colored skivvies. The Wiggles worked diligently, releasing more albums, performing live, and producing music videos and tapes. In 1994, the band released the album
Dorothy was
Yummy
fucking the
Yummy,
whole cast,
featuring
bro.
2 massive hits for the group, Hot Potato
Hot potato,
and Fruit Salad.
Fruit salad, yummy, yummy.
In 1995, they released the album Big Red Car, along with the accompanying video, Big Red Car. This was a notable moment in Wiggles' lore, as it introduced the band's iconic vehicle, the titular Big Red Car.
The what?
At first, the car was represented with a crude cardboard cutout, and the song featured on the album about the Big Red Car would not be the vehicle's more iconic number.
Riding in a big red car.
In 1997, the Wiggles' first and only theatrical film, The Wiggles Movie, was released in theaters. This
Can't believe it's 2023 and I'm a 26-year-old man having a kid and I'm learning about Wiggles lore.
film featured the first three-dimensional iteration of the Big Red Car, which was built from a dune buggy. The following year, in 1998, the Wiggles released their 9th studio album, Toot Toot, which featured the hit track Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car.
Toot toot chugga chugga big red car. We'll travel near and we'll travel far.
This would be the car's iconic song, and it would take over the world. Around this time, the Wiggles began to expand into international markets and found major success in the United States, initially touring with Barney Live before embarking on a tour of their own. This is when Wigglemania was at its peak. By 2005, the Wiggles had released 21 studio albums, filmed 3 television series, and toured all over the world. The group was struggling to meet the demand, and the number of performances were taking a toll on the health of the group, namely Anthony Field and Greg Page. This level of wiggling was simply not sustainable, but Wigglemania was showing no signs of stopping. The Wiggles made 45 million Australian dollars in 2004, or nearly
Whoa.
34 million US dollars. This made them the highest paid Australian entertainers, beating out Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe. The Wiggles empire was an intoxicating gravy train, the kind that only comes from singing about potatoes and dancing with a giant octopus, and it was a machine that could not be stopped. In an effort to maintain their health and stay closer to home, the Wiggles considered cutting down on their live performances. To supplement the lack of live shows, the group began to explore other ventures. The first was a chain of Wiggly Play Centers in Sydney. These entertainment centers were similar to those operated by Chuck E. Cheese and Discovery Zone. The Wiggly Play Centers featured indoor playgrounds, bouncy houses, and event spaces to host birthday parties. The Wiggly Play Centers allowed Wiggles fans to interact with the group without the Wiggles themselves needing to be present. Shortly after opening, a similar concept was announced, but this venture would be far more ambitious than a play center. In May of 2005, the Wiggles announced that they had entered an agreement with Dreamworld theme park. Dreamworld CEO Greg Shaw told the press, quote, "We will be talking to them about how we can develop that opportunity. These discussions must have occurred fast, because just 2 months later, it was announced that a new Wiggles-themed area was coming to Dreamworld. The expansion would cost 7 million Australian dollars, or around 5.2 million US dollars. The new land would include shops, an activity center, a playground, an animal nursery, and a brand new ride, the first new dark ride to be built in Australia in nearly 2 decades. The new land would take the place of Gumtree Gully. By this point, the space was far past its prime.
L for Gumtree
Gully
Gully.
Hall and the Koala Country Jamboree had already been closed for 3 years. Any hope for the return of the show was dashed with the announcement of the new Wiggles Land, whose flagship dark ride would take the space formerly occupied by the Singing Koalas. The new dark ride would not be unique just for its wiggly theme, but also for its advanced technology. The planned attraction would be a trackless dark ride, a style of ride that was still being introduced to many theme parks in the mid-2000s. Since their inception, dark rides have sent guests along a rigid and often visible track. This track was limiting to both the attraction's range of movement and its immersive theming. Throughout the late 20th century, ride designers experimented with ways to overcome these obstacles. Disney's Omnimover system allowed ride cars to pivot and for the most part hid the ride path from view, but this system was still on a track. It would not be until October 1st, 1982 that the first trackless ride system would be introduced with Epcot Center's Universe of Energy. Large theater seats full of guests pass throughout the attraction in unison with each other, in a slow-moving dance, with no track perceivable to guests. However, this was not a true trackless ride system either, as a 1/8-inch guide wire was embedded into the attraction's floor, laying out the ride's path. The guide wire would transmit a radio signal to each vehicle, the strength of which would communicate the vehicle's position in relation to the track. This ride system was a technological marvel in 1982. Each vehicle needed its own computer, which would then communicate with the attraction's master computer. The vehicles would also need to have their own propulsion systems, and most challenging, their own power and charging systems. The Imagineer solution to the latter was to embed charging plates into the floor, which used a state-of-the-art inductive power coupling system to charge the ride cars at 2 points throughout their journey. While Universe of Energy was not technically a trackless dark ride by modern standards, it did introduce multiple innovations necessary for later systems to succeed. The guide wire system would be reused in 1989 for the Great Movie Ride, and again in 1994 for the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, with the system improving with each iteration. These attractions were all well received, obscuring the ride path and creating a more surprising experience for guests. While these systems delivered the theming benefits of a trackless ride system, the true potential of free range of motion had yet to be achieved. This was until the year 2000, when Tokyo Disneyland received a new dark ride named Pooh's
Great time to pause.
Honey Hunt.
He said Pooh.
Pooh's Honey Hunt was a breathtaking attraction.
Oh, bother! I'm too high in the fucking air.
A rumored budget of $130 million. On top of innovative effects and elaborate environments, the attraction's most impressive element was its true trackless ride system. Rather than using guide wires, Pooh's Honey Hunt used a local positioning system in which a sensor array communicated with the ride cars and the attraction's main computer. Unlike with a guide wire, this allowed for the ride paths to be completely virtual. Disney made great use of this technology, sending cars on different paths at the same time and synchronizing movements, resulting in fun choreography. This trackless ride system would be implemented and innovated in more Disney parks throughout the world, with the notable additions of motion simulation in Ratatouille the Adventure and an elevator and drop shaft in Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Other companies have developed their own trackless ride systems using local positioning, leading to a trackless ride renaissance in the theme park industry that is still ongoing. However, back in 2005, when the Wiggles ride was being developed, local positioning systems for trackless rides were both new and prohibitively expensive. So while it would be widely promoted as a trackless dark ride, the attraction would rely on a guide wire system developed by a little-known company named Simtech. Simtech was a New Zealand-based entertainment company founded by set designer Frank Marquette in 1984. Marquette primarily worked on films such as The Lord of the Rings and small entertainment projects such as Mini Golf.
Guys, don't do it. It's really cool, but also I had like the pleasure of being like carted around for 2 different videos. It's terrifying. Like every single ride we went to, the queue time was like 2 to 3 hours for a regular guest. And I just skipped it all because somebody else paid for it. You spend a lot of money there. Also, Disney adults are freaky, man. There are like people my age, unironically, like obsessed with an entire conglomeration focusing on marketing to children. I'm not saying you can't be interested in what they do or interested in the park. I'm talking like the 50-year-old women I saw freaking out over Rey from Star Wars showing up near us and them needing to get a photo with her. Like it was the best moment in their life. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Disney parks are so expensive. You really have to plan so much. And unless you pay so much money to skip a bunch of stuff, like I'm telling you right now, when I went to Disney with Game Grumps for their Power Hour, small flex, the Cars ride in LA had just gotten back up. Like it was like shut down. And because we had like the VIP thing, you know, we just had a tour guide who took us to places and we just got to go in and skip every line, right? I don't know how much that is, by the way. It's the best way to do the park if you can afford it. I didn't pay for it. So the Cars line was 5 hours. That was the estimated time. 5 hours. And there were people in it. There were people in that line, like waiting the full 5 hours. That's what I don't understand. I understand, like, you're there, you might as well commit. I would commit to anything else in the park than sitting in a line for 5 hours. And obviously, you don't have to pay for, like, the big VIP shit. I didn't pay for either. I probably wouldn't pay for either if I knew how much it was. It's probably like a couple $100 an hour for one person. I don't even know. I would go and get, like, a bunch of the faster access stuff and just do it all in 1 or 2 days and leave. People spend, like, a week there. And they're like, yeah, I could sit 5 hours in line. We've got 6 more days here. Are you serious? That's crazy. I mean, it's an exciting place. It's cool. There's a lot to do. But like, I don't know, as somebody who's like not into the whole culture of it, it's wild. listen, my kid ain't knowing Disney parks exist. Hannah was like, well, maybe we could go and like they could understand it's not like a common thing. I'm like, yeah, but then they go. And Disney is so good at marketing to kids. It's going to be like crack cocaine. My child's going to all of a sudden want to like watch reruns of Hannah Montana. You know what I mean? They are so good at scooping up children to watch all of their shit that they inseminate ideas months in advance, which we've seen is true with one of the Defunctland videos. The person we're watching. It's crazy. And I don't mean like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards people who go to the parks regularly and enjoy it. I can't tell you what to do. That is not me. I'm talking about the people like ass deep in the whole culture of it who are like not a child. Like, I'm excited to go to a theme park too, but when your entire personality is like what you did when you went, or you planning your entire year to save up to 1 week and stuff like that, it's like when your entire well-being orients around a singular topic in general, you should probably look inwards and find some new things, to be fair. Don't not go to Disney. The person who said it, don't not go to Disney because I said this. I would just say do a really good job of like looking into it because it's not cheap. I didn't pay for anything, or I didn't pay for a lot of stuff, but I sat there and looked at prices and like kept track of like how expensive stuff was. It's a lot, like for one person, and it only gets more expensive. The hotels all around there are like $700 a night. I'm like, people are like spending a week there, not paying for the fast pass stuff, but paying $700 a night at a hotel. So they're paying literally $5,000 to stay at a hotel. Even $3,500 is insane. For a hotel, nice hotels anywhere else are like $300, $400, maybe. And I'm not talking about like a Ritz-Carlton. It's nuts. They'll spend $3,500 on a hotel and then stay there a week and sit in line for 4 hours at a time to go on a ride that's a minute. A minute. Like most of these rides are like a max 3 minutes. It's nuts. Like if you removed yourself from the culture of it for 1 second, you'd be like, this is insane. It's wild. Just plan heavily and know that you're going to spend way more than you're expecting to. My advice to you, if I had all the money to do whatever I needed at Disney, I would go one day, I would pay for the VIP, and we would hit all of the rides I needed. And we would go home. That's 1 day of expenses, and I don't have to sit there for a week spending a bunch of money on like the environment of being in Disney. You know what I mean? I don't know why I went on this giant rant. Somebody said they wanted to go to Disney, and I'm trying to save them.
Courses. In 2001, the company formed a team to develop an automated wire-guided vehicle system, or AGV, for themed entertainment rides, as Marquette believed that this ride type was the future of the industry. By 2003, the company had developed their system, reportedly piquing the interest of both Disney parks and Universal Studios. To prove their ability to develop a full-scale theme park attraction, Simtech built a
I hear you, but I still want to do Disney as an adult at some point. Yeah, I'm not saying don't like it. Guys, you make your own decisions at the end of the day. I'm just telling you from my experience, like what I observed as somebody going twice, and like, albeit when somebody else was paying for it, I wore this exact shirt to Disney and I got looks. People were looking at me because I was wearing a pee-pee poo-poo shirt. And there was a guy near me who looked at me and he had a shirt on that was like, my favorite Disney princess is my daughter. This fucking Mickey Mouse ass hat on. It's like, I'm getting eyeballed here. Just go enjoy the park, man. They're just jealous. God, you're so right.
Proof of concept standalone ride named
Disney
the
Cruise
Emperor's
sounds terrifying.
Tomb. This shooting dark ride was
I'm
built
assuming
near
you're
the
donating
company's
that as
headquarters
somebody
in
who
Christchurch,
experienced
New
it.
Zealand. The ride used the new AGV system.
Oh yeah, and if you do, last thing, if you do go to Disney, go to fucking Epcot, man. Epcot's great. Epcot's really good. The biggest highlight for that trip with Misfits was Epcot and the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster in Epcot that came out.
Disabled and I struggle with ride queues that are 45 minutes. The last time I went to Disney I was wheelchair bound, which had a scheduled time I could come back. My family is doing Disney for Christmas and I am dreading the lines and the costs.
It's just a really weird like phenomenon of a way to spend your time. Like I can't disrespect people too much. It's just there is something about it that I'm like, I clearly missed the memo here. I clearly missed the memo of like why people are so into it, because the only thing I can think of is my bank account draining. I would not have gone to either of those trips had I had to pay for any of it. I paid for like, I think our food, which was still a decent bit. The highlight of the Florida Disney was for sure Epcot. If you went, spend time at Epcot. The food is so good. If you're above the age of 21, the alcohol is amazing. I got really drunk with Charles Poodwaddle. It was great. I really wish they had made it its own video, but it was still a funny part of the vlog. They said escapism. How? Okay. I can understand because like you just go like let people have fun. I understand that argument. But when you go somewhere that absolutely scoops out your entire bank account, your escapism is the product of your stress then. If you're going somewhere to spend all of your money to like get away and then like you come back stressed out because you don't have money and like, yeah, like where are you escaping to a loan or what's the deal? Yeah, I mean, I guess they never said it was good escapism. That's true. Some people just have money to burn. I get it. I mean, I can understand. I have like an extent to which I can spend money, but at the same time, I want to be caught dead paying for that shit. That's crazy. Maybe I'll have a kid and it's different. Maybe my kid really likes Disney and that would be just the greatest day of my life, I can tell you. But if my child wanted to go to Disney, I would just be like, listen, fuck no. I mean, like, once again, I can't stop people from doing shit. But when an entire company targets you as a kid to make you like their shit, and then they manufacture a place that makes you want to go as an adult, like, you're just hooked. Like, you're just like on the fish line your entire life, man. There's nothing wrong with going. There's nothing wrong with going occasionally. There is something wrong with it being such an ingrained part of your life and culture that like, that's weird. And that's what they want, and that's what they market, and that's what they set up. We took our kids to Disney just for the experience. It was awful. The lines were too long. The park was too big. Don't think we'd ever do it again. That's the thing. It's fucking huge. People still say it's huge. It's giant. And like, there's 4 segments in Florida, and you have to like get transported to them. It's like a huge time commitment. And then you still have to wait. It's such a time commitment to even get there. They have to shuttle you from hotels if you go near it. If you take a hotel near it, you have to get shuttled. And those take a second. And if you drive there, they have an ass deep parking garage that they're like, yeah, go up to the goofy floor. Yeah, go to the Aladdin floor. Go to Genie level. We're putting all of you in Genie level because you're a dirty bitch who didn't pay for $700 a night hotels. You have to go to the top level. That's Genie level because you're a fuck. And then that garage is so fucking big and takes so long to get out of. And there's like ushers that are like, go to this line, right here, park right here, park right here.
Even then it's so expensive that I'd rather just watch other people talk about their experience.
The Star Wars areas was cool too. I'd say besides Epcot, that was another cool spot.
Top noise of said crowds.
I just feel like the pros of going don't really outweigh the cons unless you really pay for like a faster experience. I feel like the longer you stay, and obviously not from experience because I've gone twice where it's been extremely get in, get out, but I didn't have a negative time at Disney because of it. I don't have a bad experience at Disney besides like seeing people around and seeing other people's experiences because I had such like a quick and clean experience twice. So, I don't know.
And also showcased Simtek's ability to produce animatronics and detailed show scenes. It would not be long after debuting this proof of concept that Dreamworld would contract Simtek to design and construct the Wiggles Dark Ride. Simtek would provide the ride system, animatronics, and show scenes. Arvis,
anyway, we
a
were
sound
watching
technology
a video.
company, was also contracted to provide a unique audio system to each ride car. This included a microphone, a push button, and a speaker system. According to Arvis, this was, quote, the world's first onboard karaoke system
for 3 days and multi-park passes, and we finished it in 2 days. Like the last day we had fun just walking the park and maybe hopping onto a ride, but we talked to people who were there for 7 days with the fast pass and we thought that they were insane.
For an amusement ride vehicle. And that, quote, special microphones had to be developed so that there was no feedback from the speakers directly next to them. Gumtree Gully was transformed quickly, with the new Wiggles area ready to open after just 4 months of construction. The new land, named Wiggles World, had its opening ceremonies on September 13th, 2005, with the Wiggles themselves appearing and taking a ride on the land's signature dark ride, the Big Red Car Ride. The ride and the land
Sorry,
would
I'm trying to
officially
think of how to
open
get
4
the
days
TTS
later,
to be its own
and on
audio so I
September
can mute it
17th,
when I
2005,
need to.
the children of Australia were welcomed inside a brand new Wiggly World.
I guess I could always just mute it on the website and refresh it, but
Guests entered Wiggles World under a whimsical arch featuring illustrations of all 4 Wiggles, Dorothy the dinosaur, Henry the octopus, Wags the dog, and Captain Feathersword. Inside, families could visit the Fun Spot Activity Center for Wiggles-themed games, or visit the banks of the Mississippi River to
I
play
forgot
on the SS Feathersword playground. Throughout the land, guests could meet Henry the octopus, Wags the dog.
is he saying Mississippi River weird, or is it like a close enough name to where it sounds like he's saying Mississippi weird?
Or visit the banks of the Mississippi River.
Mississippi? It just sounds like he's saying Mississippi with like an accent. Guys, obviously the Mississippi River isn't in Australia. There's a giant fucking ocean between that. Actually, there's like literally 2 giant oceans between that.
Play on the SS Feathersword playground. Throughout the land, guests could meet Henry the octopus, Wags the dog, Dorothy the dinosaur, and even Captain Feathersword himself. The Gumtree Gully Farmyard
I bet
Petting
he was
Zoo
the
was
real one.
rethemed to the Wiggles Farmyard Friends. The land also had a gift shop, marketed as the first Wiggles merchandise store, as well as a cafe.
We've got Jeff fat at home. What'd they do to Jeff, man? What's the nose on this guy? Why is his nose a cartoon smiley? My nose is alive. Also, look at this drawing of Jeff over here. There's like a complete contrast. Jeff is like balding right here, and he's got hair there, and his eyebrows are so close. Like, look at the difference. These are
First Wiggles merchandise
freaky.
store, as well as a cafe with healthy foods, appropriately
that goes
named
hard.
Yummy Yummy. There was even a recreation of the
I
exterior
forgot
of the
about
Wiggle
the Wiggles
House,
door.
which allowed guests to get up close and personal with
This door looked like it would steal a child, I think. Look at it. It looks like it's just waiting for the right moment.
Flora door,
Crime of
the Wiggle
opportunity,
House's
man.
sentient door. Wiggles World's main attraction was, of course, the Big Red Car.
I didn't like that pause.
The exterior featured a prominent marquee beckoning guests into their Wiggles adventure. Guests entered the ride's short queue, with the boarding area just a few feet ahead. A television mounted to the wall displayed Wiggles videos as guests waited in line. Guests watched as their own Big Red Car pulled into the loading station. The ride vehicle was perfectly themed, appearing identical to the Wiggles' iconic car, with the notable additions of room for 3 riders per row and the unique karaoke system. Guests waited patiently for the ride car to reach the loading area, which, depending on how many cars were operating on the track, could take a while. The ride had an advertised top speed of 2 kilometers per hour, or about 1.25
I
miles
was
per
about to
hour.
look it up.
This is slow.
1.25.
For comparison, the Formula Rossa roller coaster at Ferrari World Abu Dhabi tops out at a speed of 240 kilometers per hour, or 149 miles per hour.
Jesus.
That's over 100 times faster than the Big Red Car ride. Even compared to other dark rides, the Big Red Car ride
Granite
was
2E.
slow. For
No, that's
instance, the
Haunted
Haunted
Mansion.
Mansion and similar Omnimovers move twice
Slow
as
ride.
fast. And newer trackless dark rides are even faster. Speed was not an advertised element of the Big Red Car ride, but it would definitely play a role in the energy and pacing of the attraction. Once the car arrived to the loading station, guests board the Big Red Car ride and buckle up. The doors to the first show scene open, and it is officially time to wiggle. As the Wiggles begin singing Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car, the ride vehicles slowly move into the Wiggles garden. Lights illuminate the space as the car turns to face a small TV mounted to the wall. The Wiggles appear on the screen, welcoming guests to the ride and suggesting that they use their microphones to sing along. They then inform riders that they will be entering the Wiggle House next.
Why don't we go into the house and we can sing some songs together?
Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car begins to play again as the vehicles slowly move into the Wiggles kitchen. The car turns to face another TV screen, this time featuring Just Anthony, who instructs riders to sing Hot Potato. As the song begins, the cabinets, refrigerator, and oven open and close to the music.
Potato, potato, potato.
Next up is the Wiggles Lounge Room. Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car plays again as the cars slowly move into the scene. On the wall,
I love the idea that they were like, yeah, we'll just do the 2 songs everybody loves. Not that we're like a 12-track platinum achieving band. We'll just do the 2.
the doors to all of the Wiggles bedrooms can be seen, an iconic set to those familiar with Wiggles lore. After entering this room, the car turns to face a third TV screen.
I mean, I
In
understand
this
you gotta play
video,
them,
Jeff is sleeping, and the Wiggles are
but clearly
attempting
they had
to
a
wake
bunch
him
of
up.
music.
They ask that you use your microphone to shout, "Wake up, Jeff."
Wake up!
Wake up, Jeff!
Wake up! Wake up, Jeff! Wake
This
up!
wakes
Wake
Jeff
up! Wake up!
and the Wiggles then sing, "Wake up, Jeff."
Wake up!
The
Wake up!
vehicles
Wake
again
up!
play "Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car" as they move into the next room, Wag's Kennel. The cars then turn to
same
face a
song
fourth
again.
TV screen. In this video, Greg explains that if we all sing "Wave to Wags," Wags the dog might slide
This
down
is
his
for the
slide.
disabled
After
freaks.
singing the song,
You can
Wag
get into US national parks for free by signing up for a Access Pass. You have to be a US citizen and have to be medical determined to have a permanent disability. Also, if you decide to visit national parks, please for the love of God respect the park rules. They are put in place for a reason.
Yeah.
slides down. Very slow.
My wedding was in a national park. Forest Park in St. Louis is a national park. If you guys are ever in St. Louis, you can go to the Jewel Box. That's where our ceremony was. And the World's Fair Pavilion. Somehow my mind almost said the World Trade Center. I don't know why. The World's Fair Pavilion in Forest Park was where the reception was. Forest Park is a national park in St. Louis. So I don't know why my brain wanted to say that instead. But yeah, it's a cool park. You guys should go if you're ever in St. Louis.
Slowly.
Yeah, I was there. Wait.
Greg explains that if we all sing "Wave to Wags," Wags the dog might slide down his slide. After singing the song, Wags slides down. Very slowly.
Here he comes. Here he goes.
The next scene is by far the most elaborate. Now underwater, guests encounter Henry the Octopus and a
FNAF.
variety of sea creatures,
Oh my
including
God,
a
it's
fish playing a
Purple Guy.
saxophone and a crab playing a guitar. The room is filled with detailed scene work,
He's been here the
immersive
whole
lighting,
time, bro.
and a fifth TV screen, on which Murray suggests riders move their arms like Henry and sing "Move Your Arms Like Henry."
I
In
have
response,
two, not
Henry
eight.
rocks from side to side, not technically moving his arms at all, but the saxophone fish does move back and forth,
Oh,
which is
shit.
great. The final scene
the
is in
same
Dorothy's
song!
garden. Dorothy is seen rocking back and forth on her swing as
Oh,
the car
God,
enters
bro.
the room. Dorothy greets guests, and as the car begins to exit, riders encounter their sixth and final television screen. The Wiggles express how fun the ride has been.
Now, kids, it's time to kill your parents. Can you grab the knife under your seat?
And remind guests to wave to the camera.
Chugga, chugga.
After snapping a photo, guests return to the loading area very slowly.
Big red blood.
The Big Red Car Ride at Dreamworld initially received fairly positive reviews. For Wiggles fans, especially small children, the ride
The kid on the left, he's like, say, this ain't bad. Yeah.
allowed them the unique opportunity to drive in the Big Red Car
yeah.
and visit iconic Wiggles locations. The karaoke microphones added a unique interactive element, and the more elaborate show scenes toward the end of the ride were particularly well received. In many ways, the dark ride was impressive, especially for a small park like Dreamworld. However, there were many aspects of the ride that were less than great. The attraction relied heavily on its television screens, some of which were sloppily mounted with visible wires. The walls of each room
Awesome.
did not extend to the show building ceiling,
Awesome.
which detracted from the theming and looked a bit dark and unsettling.
No, that's so
Another
cool,
odd
bro.
and often frightening aspect of the attraction
Children
was the
don't look
lighting
up, it's
design and
fine.
timings. There seemed to be a lack of consistent show scene lighting, as each ride through from the first few years of operation appears to have different lighting patterns. For instance, when the Big Red
That's
Car
weird.
exits the first room and enters the Wiggles kitchen, sometimes the lights are already on, sometimes the lights are off and turn on immediately, and sometimes the lights stay off in the kitchen until just before the video plays. This results in long stretches of guests entering a dark room with only the light of the other show scenes illuminating
I'm
the
sure
space.
children love
The
that.
reverse of this problem is also eerie. There are times when the kitchen lights are on, but the lounge room lights are not, so guests can see a very darkly lit lounge room ahead of them as they ride through the kitchen scene.
Eerie.
This is even more off-putting in the more elaborate show scenes at the end.
My God.
For example,
the
sometimes
octopus.
guests will make it all the way into Dorothy's garden before the lights turn on. The other negatives of the Big Red Car Ride are not a fault of the Dream
Oh my God. All right, Greg, now we need you to look excited for this shot. Yeah!
Dreamworld attractions specifically, but are
Holy
issues found
shit,
in many
bro.
trackless dark rides. Both wire-guided and local positioning system dark rides
I think we
have
found
an
the
issue with
Wiggles
scene
fan in
layouts
that cart.
traditional dark rides do not. Because there's a possibility that a trackless dark ride car will divert from its intended path in a way that a tracked dark ride cannot, the show elements need to be placed further away from the planned route to account for this extra margin of error. This can make rooms feel empty and show scenes seem distant. Another downside of trackless dark rides is that the designers are encouraged to illuminate the floor, either to create more natural lighting for an environment or to showcase the lack of track to riders, so the unpredictability is more thrilling. The negative to this lighting technique is that it draws more attention to the extra floor space, making some show scenes feel like big empty rooms. One thing that the Big Red Car Ride did better than many trackless dark rides was its unique floor designs. Many show scenes featured fun floor patterns to account for the excessive space. One of the most glaring downsides to trackless dark ride floors was not present when the ride opened. But as with many trackless rides, it would not be long before the issue presented itself. Overall, the ride that Simtech delivered was impressive given the budget and time restraints. The Big Red Car Ride, as it opened, was not awful, but changes were coming sooner than anyone could have anticipated. In September of 2006, a year after the land's opening, the Wiggles returned to their home at Dreamworld for a special concert celebrating the group's 15th birthday. The group also dedicated a new Wiggles World attraction, Dorothy's Rosy Teacup Ride. Fans flocked to Dreamworld to see the Wiggles return,
to deserve this?
But many longtime fans noticed that something was different. Greg Page, the Yellow Wiggle, was nowhere to be found. Instead, his understudy, Sam Moran, was performing as the Yellow Wiggle. Moran had been subbing for Page for years, but Page's absences had become more frequent, with compounding health issues cited as the reason. Just 1 month after the Wiggles' visit to Dreamworld, it was announced that Moran would be replacing Page for the rest of the Wiggles' 2006 tour, due to bouts of fainting that Page had been experiencing. Page's illness had still yet to be diagnosed, but he expressed his determination to join the Wiggles on future tours. However, just 1 month later, in November of 2006, Page released a video message to fans to deliver some shocking news.
For some time now, I've been suffering from a condition called orthostatic intolerance, which basically means that when I stand up, my heart doesn't pump enough blood around my body. It means that I'll no longer be able to sing and dance the way that I want to, and as a result, I've decided to stop performing with the Wiggles.
Moran replaced Page as the Yellow Wiggle completely, in songs, on tour, in videos, and in no time at all, in Dreamworld. In 2007, Moran replaced Page throughout the park, including on the land's entrance arch and the Big Red Car Ride's marquee. The Wiggles also shot new footage for the Big Red Car Ride with Moran. These changes meant that the original Big Red Car Ride operated for less than 2 years before receiving this significant change. While the new footage used the same script as the original, even the slight adjustment in timing and delivery began to alter the original design intentions of the attraction. On top of this, effects were consistently breaking down, and maintenance seemed to struggle to keep the ride experience consistent. The door that opens in the first show scene, separating the loading area from the rest of the ride, did not work reliably, and other times it flew open abruptly. As aforementioned, the lighting was inconsistent, but at certain times, they were more obviously malfunctioning. And just a few years after opening, the Big Red Car Ride was experiencing the same issue that even the most expensive trackless dark rides struggle with: visible tire marks throughout the attraction. It was impressive that Dreamworld received a trackless dark ride with multiple show scenes and animatronics, but maintaining show quality was a huge challenge, and only a few years into the attraction's lifespan, the ride experience was already suffering.
Toot toot chugga chugga Big Red crash.
In December of 2006, Dreamworld opened a neighboring water park, Whitewater World, that featured an area dedicated to the Wiggles, Wiggle Bay, featuring 4 slides representing each Wiggle. In 2007, Wiggles World came to the United States thanks to a partnership with Six Flags.
The dog.
We can't help but love you all when you make us so wiggly giggly.
Kill your parents.
Six Flags Great America, Six Flags Great Adventure, and Six Flags New England received Wiggles Worlds of their own, with many identical features to Dreamworld's, with similar furnishings and signage. One feature that was not identical, though,
what's that kid doing over there?
Was the appearance of Floridor. Why is she looking at me like that? The Great Escape and Six Flags Fiesta Texas would also receive Wiggles Worlds in 2008 and 2009 respectively. Some of these lands had their own big red car rides, but these were outdoor driving tracks, not dark rides. As with Dreamworld, the Wiggles made appearances at the Six Flags Wiggles Worlds. However, while guests could meet Dorothy the Dinosaur, Henry the Octopus, Wags the Dog, and even Captain Feathersword, no actors ever filled in for the Wiggles at the park. Likely because if they did, children would be able to tell that they were not the real Wiggles. This went against the expectations of theme park guests, who were used to seeing and interacting with beloved characters. Most of the time, though, guests could not meet the Wiggles at Wiggles World, and without allowing local actors to portray the band, the only way to allow guests to interact with the Wiggles without the Wiggles themselves present would be to create mascot costumes of the four that park employees could wear.
Oh God.
This really only works with animals and cartoon characters.
Please tell me they
A theme
didn't
park
do
would
it.
never create mascot costumes to represent four human
Here we
men.
go.
The Six Flags Wiggles Worlds would only last until 2010, when Six Flags ended its licensing agreements with multiple intellectual properties, including the Wiggles. The Six Flags lands were all rethemed for the 2011 season. This left only one Wiggles World, the original in Dreamworld, and more changes were coming to both the land and the Wiggles themselves. In January 2012, the Wiggles announced that Greg Page would be returning to don the yellow skivvy once more, replacing his replacement, Sam Moran. This made headlines around the world. It had been 5 years since Page had performed with the group.
Is he just gonna ignore his diagnosis, or is there like a fixable thing to do for that, or how do you make your heart pump more blood when you're standing? How do you? That's what I do. He doesn't stand. Yeah, they actually took legs off of somebody else and they gave him like a stunt double for his feet, like a stunt leg. POTS is not fixable, but you can take medication called Vibradine. Source, I have it. So is it just like a medicine that like helps your heart pump more blood? Yeah, what if he just came back with an unexplainable chair? Toot toot chugga chugga big red chair.
Group. And for many children, Moran was the Yellow Wiggle. Rumors circulated about the switch, speculating that Page's bad investments and financial troubles since leaving the group had necessitated his return, a claim that Page denied.
Maybe he just
Many
liked
speculated of bad blood between Moran and the rest of the group, which was all but confirmed
thrown under the
course
big
of the
red
next couple of
car.
years. The band's manager, Paul Field, defended the decision, saying, quote, "If the Stones lost Mick Jagger due to illness and he came back a few years later, there wouldn't be a question." Page's return sparked controversy for the otherwise wholesome musical group, with parents especially not happy with the sudden change. The Wiggles assured fans that they would pay Moran royalties on all of the songs that he had written for the group, and the band had offered him full access to the Wiggles.
Why not just make another Wiggle? Why not just like give him a different color and make a fifth Wiggle? They did eventually.
Hot Potato Studios. Moran would go on to have
That's
a successful
illegal.
solo career, creating his own show on Nick Jr. named Play Along with Sam. Shortly after the switch, the Wiggles again reshot footage for the big red car ride with Page, which either means they lost the original files with him, or the band was so obsessed with the Dark Ride's continuity that the difference in their age would have kept them up at night. They also updated the signage around Wiggles World a third time
Those
with
look much
Old
better,
Greg,
though.
which was illustrated
Old
slightly
Greg.
different than young Greg
I'm
was
Old
years
Greg.
prior. The drama over Page's return to the band was short-lived and practically all for naught, as in May of 2012, just a few months after the switch, the Wiggles announced that Jeff, Murray, and Greg would be leaving the band. This was in large part due to exhaustion and various health issues that the three were experiencing, as apparently nothing makes one face their own mortality more than being a Wiggle. Anthony would be the only Wiggle to remain in the band, and three backup performers would be handed the iconic skivvies: Lachlan Gillespie, Simon Price, and the first female Wiggle, Emma Watkins. Later in 2012, Dreamworld added another Wiggles kiddie ride, the Big Red Boat Ride, with the Wiggles once again present to dedicate the attraction. The new group's first performance together was at Dreamworld in 2013.
I think I remember this.
That same year, the signage was again
I remember
updated,
when
and the Big Red Car
when
Ride
the
went
woman was
under a
added,
fourth
people were like,
refurbishment, the most significant in its history. Not only was a fourth round of video shot to account for the new members, but the first room was changed entirely to Emma's room, with music equipment and wallpaper featuring her soon-to-be iconic yellow bow. These changes only worsened the ride's pacing, and technical issues continue to plague the experience.
No.
The door to
no
the first
way.
room was left permanently open, leaving no barrier between the loading area and the rest of the ride. The cabinets in the kitchen scene continued to open and close long after the segment ended,
Girl like pink
and the ride
bow.
cars were consistently too early or too late in arriving
Girl
to the
eat
next
hot
show
chip
scene.
like pink
Audio
and wear
tracks
bow on
consistently
head.
clashed, with Toot Toot Chugga Chugga Big Red Car sometimes playing at the same time
not
as
pink?
the video,
Yes, she
causing
is.
pure audio chaos.
She must. She's girl has to be pink. Only accept yellow. Yellow for piss.
The lighting issues were as bad as ever, and somehow, almost impressively, the cars moved even slower throughout the ride. And every year the ride continued to operate, the experience only worsened. In less than a decade, the Big Red Car ride had devolved into a truly awful ride experience. In 2015, Dreamworld announced that Wiggles World would be no more, but the Wiggles would not be going anywhere.
What?
The land would be rethemed to ABC Kids World to incorporate more properties from
Bananas.
the Australian Broadcasting Company's popular children's franchises.
I remember those stupid
including
fucking
Play
bananas.
School, Giggle and Hoot, and those bananas that wear pajamas. Dorothy's Rosie Teacup Ride,
I don't know how
the Big
I've
Red
seen
Boat
them, but I
Ride,
remember them.
and the Big Red Car Ride would remain and retain their Wiggles theming. The SS Feathersword would be rethemed to the Giggle and Hoot pirate ship, and the Fun Spot Activity Center would be rethemed to the ABC Kids World Fun Spot. 2 new attractions,
Bro.
the Play School
Honestly, keep the cafeteria named Yummy Yummy. That is such an iconic thing from the Wiggles.
Art Room, and the Bananas in Pajamas Fun Maze would
Whatever.
be added to the area as well. The iconic Wiggles arch remained in the new land and was relocated
Or
closer
make like
to
a
the Wiggle
section
House.
in the food
ABC
area with
Kids
that.
World added more relevance to the area, but the excitement surrounding the additions would be short-lived.
Oh,
On October 25th, 2016,
I saw
tragedy
Grundy.
struck Dreamworld when the park's Thunder River Rapids ride malfunctioned, leading to a major accident between 2 rafts, resulting in the death of 4 riders.
4?
The incident became worldwide news,
Oh my
and an
God.
investigation was launched into the cause of the accident.
Holy shit.
In the following years, poor maintenance would be cited as a cause
Mm.
of the incident, and Dreamworld would pay out millions in fines and compensation to the victims' families. 3 years after
No
the incident,
way.
in 2019, Dreamworld announced a $70 million expansion project, including the addition of a new triple launch coaster to
Well,
replace the
little
Thunder River
ambitious.
Rapids ride. As part of the transformation, ABC Kids World would also receive a multi-million
What the fuck is Humpty Dumpty over here, bro? This dude looks nefarious. I'm just waiting for the right moment to leave.
dollar refurbishment. However, in March of 2020, Dreamworld closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, putting the expansion project on hold. In August of 2020, it was announced that the park would reopen in September. Before the park's reopening on September 16th,
Spray everything.
it was revealed that 2 Dreamworld rides would not reopen with the park. These were Flow Rider in the Ocean Parade section and the Big
Not
Red Car
Flow
Ride
Rider.
in ABC Kids World. The attraction received no big send-off, no final rides, not even a true goodbye, which is a shame because the Wiggles have 4 different songs about saying goodbye. One of the ride cars was placed outside of the attraction for photos, and the loading area was boarded up. The pandemic delayed Dreamworld's expansion plans significantly. ABC Kids World continued to operate throughout 2020, 2021, and 2022, with the Big Red Car Ride sitting in the dark, closed off to guests.
Oof.
Dreamworld eventually announced a new renovation schedule. A children's area, named Kenny and Belinda's Dreamland, would open in 2023.
How's
The
that?
Kittyland will replace Dreamworld's DreamWorks area and will feature many ABC Kids properties, including the Wiggles. The Wiggles will receive 2 new attractions, a Big Red Plane Spinner and a Big Red Boat Coaster, but no plans for a new Big Red Car Ride have been made.
Yeah, fuck that
Once
car.
Kenny and Belinda's Dreamland fully opens, Dreamworld will finally close ABC Kids World to make room for a new area called Rivertown. Rivertown will be an homage to the original Rivertown area that Longhurst built for Dreamworld
This is just like the Garfield thing, bro.
all the way back in 1981, and the land will feature a new family coaster, Jungle Rush. While the Wiggles will live on at Dreamworld, the sudden closure of the Big Red Car Ride was disappointing to Dreamworld and Wiggles fans that would have preferred to give the attraction a proper send-off. The ride was not the most impressive, and its deterioration over the years had left it in an abysmal state. Still, it had allowed children to take a trip in the Wiggles' Big Red Car, sing along to classic Wiggles songs, and visit iconic Wiggles locations, even if it did all of those things very slowly. The Wiggles have continued to evolve over the past few years.
Whoa.
And the current band continues to spend time at Dreamworld. While the group is still popular, their presence in the park and the
That was like
band
8
itself
people.
might never again reach the prevalence they experienced
Oh
at
God,
the time
multiple
Wiggles
women.
World opened.
I can't believe the Wiggles are woke now.
For those lucky enough to experience the Wiggles home on the Gold Coast in its heyday, there was never a better time to wiggle.
Me when the lead paint kicks in. Woke. Good video. Wait, what the fuck was that? Good video. Always good when a Defunctland upload happens. Means it's a good day.